Before we start, thank you so much for the insane support on part 1. Hope this was worth the wait. Your domain expansions, let's go. Domain expansion, I'm bankrupt. Domain expansion, anime flashback. With this sacred treasure, I summon the 40-meter sword. Domain expansion, who let me cook? Domain expansion, my super laser piss. A lot of you pointed out that I said this one wrong in the comments last time, so let's correct that. Domain expansion, that's what the point of the mask is. Domain expansion, Standal power. Domain expansion, greedy duel. Domain expansion, find the real me. Domain expansion, reasons authority. Domain expansion, idle death gamble. Domain expansion, catch these hands. Domain expansion, my world. Domain expansion, dance dance revolution. Domain expansion, high noon. Domain expansion, protect all beauty of universe. Domain expansion, self-embodiment of perfection. Domain expansion, sea of flames. Domain expansion, weaved control. Domain expansion, I play Project Sakai. Domain expansion, L plus ratio. Domain expansion, I cast gun, prepared to meet God. With this treasure, I summon family-sized KFC bucket. Domain expansion, flaming purgatory. Domain expansion, roses are red, weapons against me will not prosper. With this sacred treasure, I summon Big Sfara, the Op Unstopper. Domain expansion, chicken attack. Domain expansion, hyper clock up. Domain expansion, flowers are deadly. Domain expansion, Excalibur. Domain expansion, let's go gambling. I can't stop winning. 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 Domain expansion, Trace on. Domain expansion, Clarent Blood Arthur. Domain expansion, Angry Birds. Domain expansion, Texas. Domain expansion, Kuru. Domain expansion, I am elation. Domain expansion, I'm useful, I swear. Domain expansion, Mickey Mouse. Domain expansion, I'm calling daddy. Domain expansion, chicken ass. Domain expansion, lightning wielding thunder clapping spirit squashing lord. Domain expansion, deadly kites. Domain expansion, love bombing. Domain expansion, divine slash. Domain expansion, John Cena blast. Domain expansion, infinite nihility. Domain expansion, malevolent chicken. Domain expansion, let's take ibuprofen together. Domain expansion, unlimited scam. Domain expansion, a kiss'll make it better. Domain expansion, unlimited bands. Domain expansion, abyss of nihility. Domain expansion, giant hot pot. Domain expansion, RNG manipulation. Domain expansion, kitchen knife slash. Domain expansion, I am just very lucky. Domain expansion, X-Men. Domain expansion, Hatsune Miku. Domain expansion, Asian parent. Domain expansion, Sea of Butterfly. Domain expansion, Get Stepped On. Domain expansion, Life's Game of Mahjong. Domain expansion, Illusion of the Past. Domain expansion, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Domain expansion, Shabu Pot. Domain expansion, Final Vento. Domain expansion, Hammer of Dawn. Domain expansion, Sex Alarm. Domain expansion, Cosmic Orients. In this moment, cosmic law, also known as universal law or natural law, refers to a set of principles that govern the functioning of the cosmos and the universe as a whole. These principles are considered to be inherent and immutable, transcending human-made laws and regulations. Domain expansion, Jackpot Nuke. Domain expansion, Big Cock. Domain expansion, Blazing Seas. Domain expansion, skill issue. Domain expansion, job for deadly hands. Domain expansion, US defense budget. Domain expansion, spices to your eyes. Domain expansion, British greeting. Domain expansion, fishy water magic. Domain expansion, muda muda. Domain expansion, I wear a mask with a smile for hours at a time. Domain expansion, bury the light deep within. Domain expansion, comically large sword. Domain expansion, let me cook. Domain expansion, Mega Rayquaza. Domain expansion, Persona 5. Domain expansion, Undertale Yellow. Domain expansion, Uno reverse card. Domain expansion, Witness the Final Calamity. Domain expansion, Action Replay. Domain expansion, Spirit Cooking Pot. Domain expansion, All or Nothing. Domain expansion, Idle Death Gamble. Didn't I just do this one? Domain expansion, What the Fudge is a Kilometer? Domain expansion, Eternal Masquerade. Domain expansion, Flappy Bird. Next are alternative ones that didn't make it into part 1. Domain expansion, Elegant Banjo. Domain expansion, Open Wide. Domain expansion, Rule 34 Artist. Domain expansion, 10 million followers on TikTok. Domain expansion, Charlotte's Web. Domain expansion, lady. Domain expansion, Lock the in. Domain expansion, Oshi no Ko. Domain expansion, Kaleidoscope. Domain expansion, House of Mirrors. This final section is for the 2 comments that provided me an entire essay of suggestions. Domain expansion, The Dragon Hungers. Domain expansion, Timeless Serenity. Domain expansion, Souls of Strength. Domain expansion, Mask of 1,000 Faces. Domain expansion, Elegant Eradication. Domain expansion, Starborn Firepower. Domain expansion, Endless Annihilation. Domain expansion, Storm of Crescent Strikes. Domain expansion, Arisen Guardian. Domain expansion, Classical Bulletstorm. Domain expansion, Crystalline Hands of Preservation. Domain expansion, Advancing Towards a New Dawn. Domain expansion, Celestial Observer Intervention. Domain expansion, New high score achieved. Domain expansion, To cheat and honor death all the same. Domain expansion, Salvation for those in need. Domain expansion, Star of the Show. Domain expansion, Barroom Clear Out. Domain expansion, From Writing into Reality. Domain expansion, Battlefield Retaliation. Domain expansion, Blessings of the Cosmos. Domain expansion, Power Loaded Swing. Domain expansion, Wonderfully Chaotic Parade. Domain expansion, Adorable Reign of Devastation. Domain expansion, Crushing Blow from Still Waters. Domain expansion, Heavenly Gem Impact. Domain expansion, Burning Through Obstacles. Domain expansion, To Crush the Mara Struck. Domain expansion, Shockingly Good Power Ballad. Domain expansion, Unity of Omens and Man. Domain expansion, For Luck of the Draw and Love of the Game. Domain expansion, Tricks of a Merchant's Trade. Domain expansion, To Survive Whatever It Takes. Domain expansion, From the Ways of the Old West. Domain expansion, In the Name of Beauty and Love Everywhere. Domain expansion, The Best Service That Can Be Provided. Domain expansion, Universal Knowledge. Domain expansion, To Witness and Wield Power Greater Than Known. Domain expansion, Unyielding Strength for Duty and Comrades. Domain expansion, Small in size, big in spirit, strong in Diggertron. Domain expansion, Legendary Warriors Phoenix Strike. Domain expansion, Blow to Crown a King of the Ring. Domain expansion, Phantom Strike Among Ghostly Butterflies. Domain expansion, Song Heard Across the Cosmos. Domain expansion, Luck of the Dice Guiding Fate. Domain expansion, Tail Spiritual Alliance. Domain expansion, Icy Shield of Heroism. Domain expansion, treading the long path to victory. Domain expansion, General's mighty blow. Domain expansion, healing waters flow. Domain expansion, storm of 1,000 blades. Domain expansion, unbreakable deal with the devil. Domain expansion, Star God's blessing. Domain expansion, Thunder Cross. Domain expansion, Diamond Ace. Domain expansion, Plume of Serene Plum Blossom. Domain expansion, Calculative Irony. Domain expansion, Cluster of Remembrance. Domain expansion, Cloudward Spearhead. Domain expansion, Heavenward Dragonstorm. Domain expansion, Hellish Rain. Domain expansion, Boundless Singularity. Domain expansion, Gaden's Light Hunters. Domain expansion, Tavern of Mischief. Domain expansion, Klepot's Wall. Domain expansion, Quaking Stage. Domain expansion, Undaunted Kingdom. Domain expansion, Complete Analysis. Domain expansion, Stable Recovery. Domain expansion, Big Surprise. Domain expansion, Prowling Sickles. Domain expansion, Straight Right. Domain expansion, Earth Cleaver. Domain expansion, Godly Protection. Domain expansion, Investment in Victory. Domain expansion, Second Heaven's Order. Domain expansion, Foxian Prayer. Domain expansion, Sky Blue Aerobolt. Domain expansion, Bladeborn Bird. Domain expansion, Endless Festival. Domain expansion, Blind Gamble. Domain expansion, Exorcismal Subduction. Domain expansion, Ten Lord's Blessing. Domain expansion, Malevolent Crowblade. Domain expansion, Azure Dragon's White Tiger. Domain expansion, Ocean of Delight. Domain expansion, Dancing Ice Spires. Domain expansion, Lightning Wielding Spirit Squashing Thunderclap. Domain expansion, Eye of Noose. Domain expansion, Moonlight Revelation. Domain expansion, Thorned Road. Domain expansion, Cleanser of Sin. Domain expansion, Earth-Shattering Rebirth. Domain expansion, Impure Overboil. Domain expansion, Moonrage Transience. Domain expansion, Crimson Dragon's Voice. Domain expansion, Mask Behind Masks. Domain expansion, Church of Conscience. Domain expansion, Motel Mishap. Domain expansion, Nothingness. Domain expansion, Dice and Destiny. Domain expansion, Fiery Hook Claw. Domain expansion, Frightless Stage Show. Domain expansion, Bustling Bullseye. Domain expansion, Lilith's Contract. Domain expansion, Order's Harmonious Embrace. Domain expansion, Devilish Bullets. Domain expansion, Karmic Knife. Domain expansion, Firewall Override. Domain expansion, Battle Adjustments. Domain expansion, Minor Adjustments. Domain expansion, Amber Lord's Joust. Domain expansion, Song and Dance in Perfect Harmony. Final domain expansion. Consider liking the video and subscribing.